The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello there and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and this week I'm very pleased to be joined by our old friend, it's Jeff Robbins. Welcome back to the show, sir.
We're like the 2020 version of Lenny and Swiggy.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah? Hello there.
Not sure which one I am.
Oh, I got some guesses. Hey, we got a lot of movies to talk about this week.
5 movies.
Five
Holy
movies,
moly.
count them. It's a full show. So let's
Big show.
dither dather no
One
more.
of those hour-long episodes.
Oh no, let's get into it with what we have on the marquee. I'm gonna get us started with the new film from Disney. It is The Haunted Mansion from director Justin Simien. This is Disney's, well, not even Disney. This is the third attempt to bring the classic Disney ride to the big screen, and this one feels, to me, a little bit different in tone to the previous ones.
Interesting.
This one stars Lakeith Stanfield as Ben. Ben's a man who was an astrophysicist, but now we find him, he's a grief-stricken widower, giving half-hearted, really skeptical ghost tours down in New Orleans. A priest, played by Owen Wilson, arrives at his door, Father Kent, with an offer to be a hero, and Ben is apathetic to that offer. But cold hard cash drives him to take this job that's been offered to him, to go to this creepy, maybe haunted mansion that a young mother, Gabby, played by Rosario Dawson, and her young son Travis, played by Chase Dillon, have moved into, and they are convinced that it's filled with spirits, some possibly malignant ones. Ben's skepticism is thick as he rolls his eyes at their supposed plight and goes through the motions of using his ghost camera to photograph them. But when one of these spirits follows him home and begins ruining his life, he returns to the mansion with vigor and a plan that he and Father Kent have orchestrated to build a dream team. They recruit a medium played by Tiffany Haddish, who doesn't seem like she's fully legit. They also have a crackpot professor played by Danny DeVito, who is an expert on the history of this area. And then throughout the movie, they battle spirits and self-doubts, as well as some hefty grief for some of them, trying in vain to oust this powerful entity before it collects its 1,000th soul. So we always have to have a ticking clock going. And there's a decent mix of dark elements with comedy, and I felt like the cast was fun in this. Jamie Lee Curtis is also in here as a previous medium who's trapped in a crystal ball, and I felt like she was kind of oddly used in this. It didn't even look like Jamie Lee Curtis, and she was attempting some sort of strange accent that kind of came and went, which was kind of weird to me. But I felt like the cast was having fun. You're my Disney guy. You've been on the ride. Did this translate in any way to the ride? Were there Easter eggs in here? You're like, oh, that's something, yeah.
The only, I guess there were 2 parts that I felt translated from the ride, which to me wasn't enough. There's the scene in the stretching room where if you've been on the Haunted Mansion, you go into this room first, and the voice says, "There's no doors and no windows.
Sure.
How are you going to get out?" And the room sort of seems to stretch. The pictures get tall, get longer.
Everything gets elongated, yeah.
And that's the scene where there's an alligator chasing the kid up. What's the kid's name?
Travis.
Thank you, Travis. Yeah. And then there's a scene where a couple of the characters are put in chairs and then they're
ejected out of the house.
That to me seemed like you're in a ride chair.
Yeah, it's a conveyor belt thing. Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't think there was. To me, there wasn't enough that evoked the ride.
Okay.
And I don't really have a lot. We got a full plate this week, Jameson.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. I found it was not funny enough to be a comedy and not scary enough to be a thriller. I found it pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I thought it was passable fun. I took my 10-year-old daughter. She was enjoying it. I thought that there was it had some darker tones than like the Eddie Murphy or the Muppets version did, and comedy. But I didn't feel like they really like hammered either one well enough. But I did like the cast. I thought the cast was fun. It felt like they were having fun together in there.
Cast was fine. I didn't much care for Tiffany Haddish. I thought she was sort of irritating, kind of chewing the scenery a little bit. I like the lead guy, Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah, I love him.
What's he been in?
He was in Sorry to Bother You, one of my favorite movies of 4 years ago. He's been in things.
Okay, I hadn't seen him before. I liked him. I like Rosario Dawson just fine. Danny DeVito was sort of irritating.
Danny DeVito's great and everything.
I was disappointed. We talked about this off camera. You know,
Yes.
Daniel Levy's name comes up, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's fun. He's in it for like half second.
If that.
Mary Lou Henner is in it for less than that. Why is she even getting credited at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, that was strange to me.
There is a
Random
cameo.
tourist.
There's a uncredited role from a former Hollywood ingenue,
Oh, yeah?
the tour guide.
Tour guide.
I'm not going to give it away.
Okay.
But you don't remember who that was?
I don't remember at the moment, no. I'm
Star
sorry.
of Heathers.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
But yeah, so this wasn't Disney enough for me. It seemed like just a standard middle of the road. Let's not offend anybody. Let's not do anything too outrageous. I think this movie needed to lean into the wackiness. I think it just needed.
Yeah.
I think the characters needed to be a little more wacky. To me, it was kind of dull.
So middle of the road means what? Did you give this score?
That means a 2.5, sir.
Absolutely does. Yeah, I gave it a bump a little bit. I gave it 3 stars. It was fun enough. It's a step up from the Eddie Murphy version, which I thought was kind of a train wreck. But yeah,
And it was too long. I mean, it was like
it was too long. It had no reason to be.
it had no reason to be over 2
hours
hours.
long.
Yeah, no reason.
All right, let's move on to what else we have on the marquee. Sir, you saw a film I didn't get to see. What did you have?
Well, I saw the film Theater Camp, Jameson. Theater Camp is a new comedy mockumentary directed by Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman and written by the two of them, as well as Ben Platt and Noah Galvin. The film follows a summer season at Camp Adirondacks, the titular and extremely low-budget theater camp for kids located in upstate New York that lies adjacent to a much swankier camp that would love to buy out Camp Adirondacks for an expansion. The viability of the troubled camp takes a major hit when just before the season, its founder and director, Joan Rubinski, played by Amy Sedaris, falls ill in what was a hilarious early plot twist that caught me completely off guard. That leaves Joan's son, the decidedly non-theatrical lunkhead Troy, played by Jimmy Tatro, to run the camp. He has an extremely difficult time bonding with the campers, with the exception of crew leader Glenn, played by co-writer Noah Galvin, with whom he shares some information about the camp's financial troubles. Troy struggles to get along with vocal and acting coaches Rebecca Diane and Amos, played by Molly Gordon and Ben Platt of Dear Evan Hansen fame. But the two of them, who were linked romantically before Amos came out as gay, don't get along either, as they have differing ideas about the camp's various productions and Rebecca Diane's waning commitment to the camp. Theater Camp is filled with hilarious moments and performances. Those who only know Ben Platt from the humorless Dear Evan Hansen will be really surprised at how funny he is in this movie. Also great are Nathan Lee Graham as dance instructor Clive DeWitt and Io Edie Birdie, and I hope I'm even close, as acting teacher Janet Walsh, who knows absolutely nothing about acting but was the only one who applied for the open position. There are also some great turns here by the many young actors who play the campers in the film, who are almost without exception smarter and more talented than the adults charged with teaching them. See, I'm watching the trailer and I'm chuckling to myself a little bit. Like a lot of comedies, Theater Camp kind of runs out of gas about halfway through, but then it comes back strong for a hysterical big finale as the camp's original production premieres, which ends up starring, surprisingly, crew leader Glenn. Your mileage on Theater Camp may vary. For me, my daughter has participated in show choir and musicals, and I did see some truths, almost certainly exaggerated.
They're universal, though, in those circles.
For sure. In the picture that, to me, sweetened the laughs. And if you're someone who isn't a big fan of like the Christopher Guest mockumentaries that this film certainly aspires to be, you should probably stay away. But, and to be honest, even just a few days after seeing Theater Camp, it's sort of faded from my memory. Although I seeing the trailer, it kind of evoked some hearty laughs. The performances are great. There's a lot of laughs, and it's a breezy, unlike Haunted Mansion, it's a breezy 90 minutes.
There you go.
And it was a great change of pace. I saw it the morning after I saw Oppenheimer, so it was a good, nice change of pace for that. So I'm giving Theater Camp, Jameson Rabbit, 3.5 stars.
Wow, nice. I love Amy Sedaris.
She's not in it very much.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
there was a lot of hilarious performers in this film, and it really.
That's cool. Looks
good.
good.
Caught me by surprise how much I liked it.
Very good. I might have to check that out then. I have a film of a very different tone that I went to go see. It is the new A24 horror film, Talk to Me. This is an Australian horror film from directors Danny and Michael Philippou. It opens with this gruesome death at a teenage high school party that sets an ominous tone, and that will come full circle in this film. Later on, we meet Jade, her little brother Riley, and Jade's best friend Mia. Mia is grieving her deceased mother as it's the anniversary of her death. The three of them go to a house party to unwind, and so that Jade can see her boyfriend Daniel. Mia isn't really welcomed at the party, and it's the classic, I found this in a lot of teen horror movies, it's the classic teen horror trope of everyone hates the kid whose parent died. I don't know why that's a thing, but it has been since the 80s. These teens are all there to play this party game that two of them brought. It involves a weird hand of uncertain origins. And Mia volunteers to be the first to try it in order to try and fit in with everyone. And we have rules. It's a game with rules, and we are told those rules from the start. You light a candle. Whoever's participating grasps the hand and says, "Talk to me." This reveals some scary stuff, a specter, a ghoul. And then you say, you allow the spirit in. You say, "I allow you in." You then have 90 seconds. Within 90 seconds, you need to break the bond with the hand and blow out the candle to end the ceremony. You must follow these steps or it will never leave you. Whatever you bring out will never leave you. So Mia gets inhabited by something grotesque, terrifies the partygoers, and of course, everyone has their phones out to record it. And what Mia experiences seems to break her from her grief, and it's like a drug, and she wants more of it. So the next day, they invite everyone over to, and Daniel wants to try it, and to disastrous results for Daniel. Some really disgusting stuff happens with him and a dog. And this party suddenly, party suddenly becomes a series. It's a montage of people doing hits with the hand. Everyone's doing a thing with the hand, and we're having fun, and we're bringing spirits through and
Like
opening
you're passing the bong.
Really, seriously, and they're kind of opening the door to the spirit world over and over again. But when young Riley, who's the 15-year-old younger brother, takes a turn against his sister's wishes, things turn bad, and he brings back someone who is close to someone in the party, and suddenly everyone is irresponsible with the young teenager, and rules are broken, and there's gruesome consequences when you break the rules to this game.
Gruesome.
And there's a I don't want to spoil a lot of what happens
party
at the
at
end.
your house,
right? And we're kind of given a little bit at a time after this happens, but there's a lot of things. I thought that the movie opened up with really interesting ideas, and it ended with something really interesting. I felt like the middle hour of this movie was very little character development. Like there's gruesome body horror, but like the interactions between the characters, the motivations between the characters, I felt like it was just kind of going through the motions for me.
Okay.
And so, and there's some things, there's one character spends the majority of the movie in an ICU unit in a hospital that apparently has the worst security ever because people are just walking in and out of this unit, doing things to them. And there's just a lack of character development in here. And, there's all these temporary possession moments that I enjoyed. I like those. But I was kind of struggling to stay fully invested in these people and found myself kind of passively viewing this for a while. And especially once I realized, like a lot of these horror movies, that it was one of those transferable curse movies where we have to pass the curse on to someone else in order to get rid of it. I did like the idea. Like I said, they really focused on the kids all getting their phones out and posting things on social media. And that's how these teens discovered it, was through social media videos that they were obsessed with watching, and they found this hand, blah, blah. And I thought that was going to be something really interesting that they hit on, of how the modern youth is worried about social media, and it's interesting in capturing the moment to share rather than being invested in it. But that kind of just went by the wayside real quick. It was like, oh, we're going to dig in? No. And there's no nuance to this story. So, most of these people are unknown actors. Sophie Wilde, who played Mia, this is her first role. I thought she was really good.
Okay.
But I never felt a sense of dread. It was just kind of graphic moments. It felt more like Flatliners when everyone's doing hits, trying to see how long they can die for, right? And so it's gotten a lot of buzz, but I gave Talk to Me 3 stars. It's got interesting bookends.
That's a mild recommendation.
Yeah, it is. But the middle just didn't provide enough for me. So for an A24 horror movie, that's kind of lackluster for me.
Now, what was the level of gore in this film?
It was pretty heavy. I mean, there's some moments where I'm like, I don't need to look at this.
Glad I stayed away.
But my other co-host, Steve Sabaki, would not go see this movie with his daughter.
Right.
She begged him to, and he refused.
How old is? Oh, well, she's obviously older.
Yes, sir.
She's,
Yes. So 3 stars for Talk to Me. All right, we have Streaming Spotlight movies.
Streaming Spotlight.
You saw one that I was unable to see. What do you have?
Well, Jameson Rabbit, I fulfilled my duty of seeing the Beanie Bubble over there on the Apple TV Plus. The Beanie Bubble is based on the 2015 book, The Great Beanie Baby Bubble, Mass Delusion and the Dark Side of Cute.
Wow.
There's a long title for you.
Yeah. Put that on a spine.
The film adaptation is directed by Kristen Gore and Damian Kulash Jr. It stars Zach Galifianakis as toy manufacturer and founder of Ty Inc., Ty Warner. Ty Inc., of course, is most famous for launching the Beanie Babies in the mid-1990s. You were a big Beanie Baby guy, weren't you?
Never owned one.
Never? Oh, my mother was a big Beanie Baby
Yeah?
collector. Yeah, she was totally into it.
I'm so glad I don't have totes of those in my basement right now.
Elizabeth Banks and Sarah Snook also star as 2 longtime girlfriends of Ty Warner. Banks is Robbie, who we are led to believe co-founded Ty Inc. with Ty in the 1980s, while Sarah Snook is Sheila, whose daughters, we are told, heavily inspired the creation of the Beanie Babies in the early 1990s. Now, these characters are based on Warner's real-life girlfriends, Patricia Roche and Faith McGowan. Also starring is Geraldine Viswanathan.
All right.
I hope I'm close.
You're getting the fun names.
Yeah. She's Maya. We see her right there. She begins work at Ty as a receptionist and then quickly becomes important to Ty Inc. after bringing the internet to Warner's attention, where she created the first business-to-consumer website.
Yes.
You knew that already?
I have watched a couple of Beanie Baby documentaries in the recent years. Yeah.
So the character of Maya is based on Lena Trivetti, who is shown in the film as being the first to notice the popularity of Beanie Baby collecting and reselling through what was then a brand new website. It was all brand new then, through eBay. She's also shown as trying to warn Ty that expanding the company and increasing production too much was a mistake, as the perceived rarity and scarcity of particular Beanie Babies before they were retired was a major factor in their popularity. This Wanathan is the most interesting character in the movie by far, largely because when she's on the screen, there she is. When she's on the screen, we're following the story of the growth of Ty Inc. and specifically the explosion of the Beanie Baby craze. That's what's interesting here. Unfortunately, the film spends as much time on Warner's romantic relationships with the characters played by Banks and Snook. They're fine, but their characters are boring, their relationships aren't interesting, and the film really sags when the film's focus is their relationships with Warner. As for Zach Galifianakis, he's almost unrecognizable here. You saw him in the trailer. He's fine, but he's not really evil enough to root against as a greedy toy tycoon, and he's not sympathetic enough to really care about. He's really a very dull character who spawned a very interesting product. In the movie, as apparently in real life, Ty and Galifianakis are upstaged by Viswanathan's Maya, who really jumpstarts the company and, not surprisingly, the movie. Not only are Banks and Snook and Galifianakis saddled with dull characters pursuing uninteresting relationships, the movie makes the decision, kind of like a Christopher Nolan thing, to constantly and irritatingly go back and forth between the 80s and the 90s for no apparent reason other than to just get Banks and Snook's storylines in the picture at the same time. The movie also relies on a lot of nostalgia with lots of period music and stock footage of the era. That would be fine if it wasn't in lieu.
That worked for Air.
Yeah, well, Air was a much better film.
Yeah, right.
It would be fine if it wasn't used just in lieu of anything interesting being on the screen. Again, I think there's an interesting movie here. I think there's a good story here. And when the film explores that story of the Beanie Babies, it works. But the filmmaker should have trusted that there was more in that story to make an engrossing film. But thanks for their insistence on concentrating on Warner's personal life, Jameson, the Beanie Bubble bursts.
Ooh. Yeah, I watched a documentary recently that was told through the lens of the real life character that Maya represents.
Yeah.
And it's her telling the story, and she kind of has the history of Beanie Babies because, like you said, she was the first one to really discover them. You know, they were out there, but she was the one who really kind of started that mania of buying them, selling them,
Correct.
Forming groups of fellow moms who would then go and inundate places to go get them and blah, blah, blah. And That's a really interesting story from her perspective.
Right,
Of
she was-
how she
yeah.
kind of was at the ground zero of the mania that became the Beanie Babies.
And Ty Warner, he's shown as being too insecure to give the company, give any control over to her,
Right.
or any control over the company to either of the girlfriends played by Elizabeth Banks and Sarah Snook. Yeah, there's an interesting scene in the movie where a woman comes in who's one of the first collectors, and she's the publisher of like the Beanie Baby Collector's Guide.
Sure.
And
Yep, I know her.
And Ty Warner is like, "What? You're making money off my product?" He's upset that somebody else is using his product for their own gain, not understanding that it's like free marketing.
Yeah,
it's
right.
really helping the craze move along, and yeah, that all the Beanie Baby Ty Inc. stuff is interesting, but there's too much of the relationship stuff, which is not good. So
It's the
I
craze, yeah.
ask me what I gave it.
I was about to.
Okay,
What did you end up giving?
I gave it 2 stars, Jameson.
Oh, it had so much promise.
It did. I'm going to check out one of these documentaries you're mentioning because I think that's going to be more interesting.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones out there. Well worth your time. All right. Speaking of well worth your time, let's turn to our final streaming spotlight. We turn to Netflix for a new film. It's not really new. It's actually fairly old. It's a film called Hidden Strike.
And we both saw this.
We did.
Okay.
From director Scott Wall. This film has sat on a shelf for 5 years. Just kind of waiting. It's an international co-production between China and the U.S. Stars John Cena, Jackie Chan, a bunch of people, but it's an action movie where a Chinese refinery, which is situated in Iraq, is under attack. So an elite team led by Liu Feng, who is Jackie Chan's character, is sent to go in and get all the employees out of there safely, rescue them. But guess what?
What?
One of those employees is also his estranged daughter.
Yes.
Mai, she's one of the employees, and they've got to get down the highway of death
Yes.
to the relative safety of Baghdad. Also in Iraq at this time is a former American Marine, Chris Van Horn, played by John Cena, who stayed in Iraq and is trying to help a village repair its water system. He needs money, and he gets word that the man responsible for killing his father and his friends is on that convoy down the highway of death. So guess what? He gets his guys together and he goes after that convoy, leading to a face-off with Jackie Chan's character in a classic fight of hulking strength and size versus speed and skill. Oh, but wait, there's more. Of course, the poster will tell you that these two end up teaming up together against a common, very lackluster enemy and cracking wise along the way in what felt like, to me, a tossed-out script, first draft of a Rush Hour film. Everything that happens in here is so formulaic. Does John Cena end up having feelings for Jackie Chan's daughter? You better believe it.
Oh, you gave that away.
Oh, come on. Everything about this movie is so predictable. John Cena is so robotic in much of this film. Like, when he's talking, it feels like they programmed a robot. Yes, he learned Mandarin and showed it off in moments in this film, but I felt like the chemistry between he and Jackie Chan is really lacking. And the characters are written really flimsily. It featured a cardboard villain. I mean, a cardboard cutout of a villain in this movie. And here's the thing. This movie had an $80 million budget.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for a Netflix movie. The action, at least, should be what films like this should be able to score points with. You should at least have big action moments that look great, and to me, it felt and looked amateurish.
Oh,
The
yeah.
action did. There was some really wonky CGI moments in here that felt like it was made on a shoestring budget film, and I struggled with
The effects in the movie were terrible.
Really? I mean,
I was
shocking.
distracted the entire time. Like, that looks awful.
Like, this was $80 million? So, I didn't love this movie. What were your thoughts on Hidden Strike? I know you're a big John Cena cinematic fan.
Huge. I was really impressed by your plot summary.
Yeah?
Nice job.
Sure.
I spent the first hour of this movie not understanding what the hell was going on. I didn't know who these characters were. I didn't know what their situation was. I didn't know what anybody's motivation was. I didn't know where the movie was taking place. I didn't feel like anything was sufficiently explained.
Yeah.
And then about an hour in, the things became a little clearer. There's some sort of attempt being made to steal oil. I thought the chemistry between Cena and Chan was passable. Not great, but okay.
Yeah.
But by the time we got to them teaming up, I just had completely lost interest.
Absolutely.
The script was terrible. I mean, there's like humorous asides about nicknames and seatbelts that were just not funny at all.
Yeah.
There's some weird thing about John Cena being like the village teacher or father figure to a group of kids.
Sure.
And he starts singing Old MacDonald, and I was just like, what the hell is this? What's happening here? And yeah, the effects in the movie were terrible.
There's a reason this has been sitting around for 5 years waiting to come out.
And it was great that the timing was so I could see it on this show.
The only points I would give this are for Jackie Chan, who at his age still excels at believable, kind of stunning action stunts. I love watching him do all of his things, that never gets old. And he seems to be giving more to this movie than this movie is giving to him, I felt like. And so, all of my points for this movie go to Jackie Chan. But this felt like a lazy Netflix action film that we are kind of being populated with far too often lately. And with this budget, this should have at least been big, dumb fun.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
And it wasn't. It was
fun.
Big, boring nothing. And it was frustrating to watch. And I'm really glad that you were here with me to talk about it.
I will give it a little credit for the fact that a lot of the dialogue was in Chinese, as it should have been. And so, you had to read some subtitles, which I think helped the authenticity of it a little bit. Yeah. That's about it.
That's about it.
That's about it.
All right, Hidden Strike, sir. I ask you, what did you end up giving this?
I gave it the unfortunate rating of 1 star.
Yeah.
It could not end fast enough.
Somehow I liked it slightly more than you. I gave it 1.5.
1.5.
I said it's all Jackie Chan points.
Okay,
That's
fair
it.
enough.
I love watching him do things. All right, let's take a look ahead, sir.
You killed my brother.
We have movies coming out August 11th. They're still putting them out, even after this. The first one we have is a film called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's about a crew who is sailing from Carpathia to England, and they find out that they're hauling some dangerous cargo. It might or might not be a Dracul. Yeah.
I've seen the trailer for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Dracula movie.
Yeah.
We also have in theaters a film called Jules, which is about a man who is living a boring life and has it upended when a UFO and its passenger crash land in his backyard. It stars Ben Kingsley and Jane Curtin.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for this one too. Jane Curtin.
Yeah. she's no stranger to dealing with aliens, right?
Is that like
Third Rock from the Sun? She was dealing with aliens.
Oh, I thought that was a John Belushi reference.
No. This trailer feels a little bit like Linoleum, the Jim Gaffigan movie I talked about a couple months ago. But yeah, and then over on our streaming spotlights, we have Marry My Dead Body. This is a Netflix film from Taiwan where a police officer finds himself being asked by a ghost to marry them so that the ghost can be reincarnated. And the question is, can a human and a ghost find love?
Interesting.
Yeah. And then lastly, we have a film called Heart of Stone, in which a secret operative is trying to stop a hacker from stealing a valuable and dangerous weapon. This stars Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself.
Ooh.
She is giving... this trailer gives me Red Notice vibes. You ever see Red Notice with Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Gal Gadot?
No, but I think you and Steve reviewed it, and I enjoyed the review, because I think Steve hated it.
I believe we both gave it maybe a generous 1 star. This is giving off Red Notice vibes.
Interesting.
But those are all the films that are going to be coming out the weekend of August 11th. Before we move any further, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie, for always being so supportive, sponsoring this program, and allowing us to come in, sit in some beautiful dream loungers and watch some movies, whether we love them or don't. I'll tell you what, I was at the theater last night. Barbie, still killing it. I walked out of Haunted Mansion, and there were just throngs of people in pink still showing up.
Yes. I was there last night as well.
The Barbie box is still a thing.
Theater was very busy. It's great to see.
Yeah.
And I saw my good friend Kevin Liddell there.
Oh, there you go. I love him. All right, next week, sir, I'm going to be talking about such films as the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Sure.
Jason Statham fighting monster sharks in The Meg 2. I also have a remake of the Kevin Bacon movie, The River Wild.
Oh.
And we'll be joined by someone brand new who's never been on the program. Zenon Schmitz is going to be here. So tune in to see all of that action. Mr. Robbins, thank you again for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Rabbit.
Thank you for doing the heavy lifting of watching so many movies this week. I appreciate it.
I just watched 4. That's the normal route.
Well done.
That's the normal thing.
Well done.
Okay, well, you're welcome.
All right, until next week, though, I'm Jameson.
Hey, I'm Jeff.